Fountainhead Property Trust has a market cap of 8.6 billion rand with major stakes in Centurion Mall, Westgate, Boulders, Blue Route, Kenilworth and N1 City Mall. Standard Bank recently sold its 50% stake in Fountainhead to Redefine Properties for some 30 million rand. The Property Trust has a price to earnings ratio of around 11. Where do we go with this one? Is it an exciting story?
You know what, if I had to look at it, there's some great centres, some centres that are struggling. You know, the likes of Brightwater Commons, Kenilworth, they've done a great revamp, a beautiful centre, and that's the strongest centre in the picture. But unfortunately, I'm not looking at it as a going concern. The fact that
Redefine is about to buy it.
Well, that's imminent, really, and you've got to see, well, when they buy it, what price can they do it at? And it's going to be a share swap, Hyprop and Redefine units for Fountainhead. And the price that Redefine and Hyprop have run relative to Fountainhead makes Fountainhead looking, relatively speaking, cheap. So that is a great entry point.
Somebody tabled an interesting point in our listed property discussion when it came to Redefine. They said if the transaction goes through, they would buy Redefine.
Yes.
If the transaction does not go through, they're not going anywhere near Redefine.
Well, it's a double whammy because you're 100% right. If the transaction goes through, Redefine is going to look a lot smarter. But this is a cheaper entry into Redefine. As opposed to buying Redefine in the market now, which is expensive at around about 8.1%, if I buy through Fountainhead, the likelihood is I'll probably get it cheaper at around about 8.3, 8.4%.
Well, let's just recap the story here for those that haven't been paying attention. This is the old Allan Gray Property Fund, and Allan Gray decided they didn't want to be in that anymore, just equities, so they first of all sold it to Standard Bank, and that was the management company, and then the actual assets were in the listed entity. Management then decided at Standard Bank after the name change, they don't want it either, so now it's
sounds like a great asset. When you get it, you don't want it.
Fantastic assets, actually. It's like all the malls you spoke about there. You know, South Africa's got great malls. That's one thing you can say about the retail environment in this country, is that nobody has left any stone unturned when it comes to shopping malls. And I mean, the Blue Route thing was a big issue for them and something they've worked hard on, and it looks great. I was there just the other day.
But why did nobody keep it in their stable?
Well, just because it's all about focus. So Allan Gray had their own issues, and Standard Bank, as you know, has decided to focus, on its kind of African corporate investment and retail banking. So I don't hold it against them, and you shouldn't hold it against the portfolio. The Redefine guys are looking to buy the management company, and I think they've kind of concluded that already. Now they want to move on to the units. So I've got no sense. I want to ask you, does the sort of R7.40 odd price already factor in the idea that this is sort of a bid premium out there?
Not at all. And I think that Mark knows he's going to have to pay a little bit of a premium, and there's still more upside. But one thing that you haven't touched on is that you went from the old Allan Gray prop as it was at that time. Then they moved that on to Standard Bank and Liberty. They shared it 50-50. But you aren't telling me any individuals. You're not telling me an entrepreneur has actually worked those assets. You've given me life companies. You've given me banks. I'm giving you Mark Wayner. He can turn it. He can create some value out of it. So again, a lot of these property stocks don't always do better in a corporate environment. They do better when the entrepreneurs are working the assets.
Can I ask you, hot or not, if you started off by saying it's not a going concern in your view?
Corporate action, definitely hot.
Definitely hot. How much upside could we see? I've got to push a little bit further.
You know, it's going to be a cheaper entry into Redefine, so I'd say 5% or so. But again, we aren't looking for that much of a blue sky at this moment.
So hot in your book, hot or not?
So summarize what he's saying there is that you're going to get some kind of deal and that it could be slightly elevated from the current levels. But it's not a secret, this thing's in the headlights right now. So maybe that's a fairly narrow arbitrage gap. The other person.
It should already be in the price. That's what you're saying.
But, maybe there's some dark arts going on there that we're not aware of.
Hot or not?
No, I think pass. I mean, I got to assume this is, in the price already.